Hi, everybody. I just read the newest chapter, the 980th chapter of One Piece, and I feel like it's a pretty fun chapter, but I also feel like it's a bit of a letdown. Let me explain why. I was totally expecting the announcement that Kaido was supposed to make, and I feel like Queen announcing that he's going to kill off one of the Tobiropo isn't enough of a replacement. Now, I understand that this is supposed to be a little bit of a twist, but I was so hyped up about the announcement that Kaido was supposed to make. Instead, we get a cliffhanger. I don't believe that this is the announcement that Kaido is going to make. The biggest reason I'm feeling let down from this chapter is seeing that Oda is going to have a little break on the coming week. So there's that. Moving on, at the start of the chapter, we see Luffy beating up the father that were playing with food. This reminds me of Sanji. Luffy is just so empathetic of others, which is still a part of who he is, but since it's about food, it really does remind me of Sanji. Kid then sees the commotion and is dumbfounded by how stupid it was for Luffy to do that. He then decides to ignore it, and Zoro slashed up the hall because he heard the noise that Luffy was making. He was messing up the father, and Zoro heard it for some reason, and then boom, he slashes up the hall. Everybody's surprised, and then he says, Luffy ruined the whole operation, and why Luffy can't just sneak in like the rest of the allied forces, just to avoid the whole mess. But then Luffy tells Zoro why he did it, and then Zoro joins in. Anyway, Kaido's forces were slow to recognize what was happening, but Apoo instantly recognizes Luffy and Zoro. Both Luffy and Zoro start running as if nothing happened. So that was quite funny. So Apoo makes the announcement that they have intruders, and then Queen realizes that Luffy escaped from Udon. So he's now verbalizing how bad the situation is, despite receiving the report that everything was okay in the prison in Udon. He also makes the announcement that he'll be wiping out one of the Tobiropo. Personally, I think it'll be Drake or Who's Who, but both are pretty obvious choices because of how Drake is still connected with the Marines, so maybe Kaido's forces or Queen, King, and Jack found out. And then on Who's Who's part, that was hard to say. Remember Who's Who asking the question, if Queen were to die, who would replace him in the commander's spot? So I believe that this can be used as a setup, and it has a lot of potential for a plot twist, or maybe a rich backstory. Moving on, the headliners then get hyped up about the news because they're all gunning for the promotion. The non-gifters, they keep on drinking because this won't be concerning them. Zoro and Luffy were fighting a lot of gifters when Apoo starts to hit them with the tatakao music. Then both Luffy and Zoro didn't know what hit them. And it reminds me of how Apoo tried to mess around with Kizaru back in Shabondi Archipelago. Kizaru was a Logia, so it really didn't affect him, but he was trying to analyze what happened. Now, Luffy basically was stunned from all the damage he took from those two blows. And then Queen mocks them, saying that they were supposed to be giving the Beast Pirates a good show. So, after all that damage, Zoro realizes how bad this is for them because they need to be at 100% when they face Kaido, and is forced to run away. So it was very funny when Luffy regained consciousness because he started biting off the snout of this alligator smile user. Kid sees what's happening, and Killer tries to stop Kid. But Kid was so furious at Apoo and hits him with the awesome Punk Gibson. And then BAM! Squishes Apoo on the wall, and the chapter officially ends there. But we are now left with a big crazy mess that is sure to hype up everybody for the next chapter. I believe that this chapter was meant to do three things. The first being a setup for a twist. Oda loves doing this. He loves to write the story in such a way that will lead you to believe one thing, but it's actually a setup for another. I feel like Queen's dialogue about the Tobiropo makes the readers feel like he's going to wipe out Drake or Who's Who. Then we'll get hit with the twist. Next is to build on the character of Queen and Kid. Oda has drawn Queen very panicky and has also been portrayed chill and calm. This leads me to believe that Queen sometimes underestimates his opponents. Right now, Apoo is doing the bulk of the work on Luffy and Zoro, and Queen's just watching what's happening. Maybe he's more of a strategist. But like most of the antagonists in the One Piece world, Queen doesn't seem to care much about his subordinates. There was one panel in the current chapter where the gifters or maybe the headliners were asking for a doctor, but Queen hits them with the Tobiropo slot opening up. And then instantly, everything's okay and the gifters and the headliners are in a frenzy over who gets that spot. Now, as for Kid, we saw him in action in the auction house back in Shabodi Archipelago, and he doesn't seem like the type to cause too much trouble. Unless you poop all over his dreams of being the Pirate King, then he'll just torture you, even if you're such an innocent civilian. Or if you backstab him, then he'll punch you and squish you against the wall. But yeah, mostly the not causing too much trouble parts. But anyway, when he gets furious, he acts. Don't mess with this kid. He bites. And lastly, here's the meaty part. This chapter could also be used to power scale Apoo and Kid. I haven't made a power scaling video about our protagonists, but I'll definitely make one this week. I think that it will make for a good video and a great discussion as well. But for now, we all know so little about Apoo and Kid that I feel like this was the perfect time for Oda to give us an understanding of just how awesome they are. I don't feel like Apoo gets much love from the One Piece fan community, including me, just because there's not enough scenes for us to understand who he is. Now, Oda definitely is letting Apoo have his moments in the story, and the damage he dealt Luffy and Zoro helps us gauge how OP his Devil Fruit ability is. It's so surprising just how easy it was for Apoo to do so much damage on both Luffy and Zoro in just a few panels. As of right now, I'm willing to put Apoo on almost Yonko Commander level. I think there's a reason why Oda put Apoo in the headliners and not the Tobiropo. And seeing how Kid used the opportunity that Apoo was focused on Luffy and Zoro, I'm kind of hesitant to put Kid on Yonko Commander level. I would like to put him on the same level as the Tobiropo. So Luffy is Yonko Commander level right now, without seeing the results of his Rio training and not yet mastering the future sight hockey. A slight level below Luffy is Kid, with what little information we have on him. And finally, there's Apoo on a slightly lower level than Kid, but on the Tobiropo level. I think this way because I believe Kid would be having a slight advantage in hockey because of how Kid can use Haoshoku. And Apoo could have a slight advantage because of how OP his Devil Fruit powers are. So he's definitely a formidable opponent, but slightly below Luffy, Zoro, and Kid. Right now, this is how I gauge all of them because we don't know exactly the extent of Apoo's Devil Fruit abilities are and how strong his hockey is. But I'm giving the advantage to Kid since he is able to use Conqueror's hockey, and we all know how big of a difference a strong will is. We have definitely seen it in Luffy, how he's pushed himself over and over again, far beyond his limits. That's all for today's video. Man, this was a fun chapter, even though it's a bit of a letdown because of the short break we're gonna be getting. But please, if you like the video, leave a like. If you love One Piece, please share your thoughts on the comment section below. I'd love to know what you think about this week's chapter. And subscribe to the channel for more reviews, theories, and gameplay coming soon. Stay safe, protect yourself, and boost your immune system. Peace.